of the LT250R build. I've been making way, doing some of the time-consuming parts here and there, and we'll catch up to that in a little bit, but we'll be rebuilding this crusty old shock and getting it back on the bike. I can't take it off the table until I put a shock in the back, and the factory shocks are good and really recommended to be rebuilt. So I ordered the seal head, a new bladder, and a bump stop, and we're going to clean up that body, polish it up a little bit, change all the parts, fill it with oil, and charge it with a little bit of air for now just to seat everything, and then I'll have to take it to a shop to get filled with nitrogen later. But other than that, at part 3 I told you that I had something big coming up, and they finally arrived. If you're on the LT250R forums on Facebook, you've seen it already, but if you haven't seen it yet and you're just following the build on YouTube, hang tight and we will get to it in this video. I promise it will be worth it. Parts are cleaned and we are ready to reassemble. I did put the bladder in with, I put some oil in, put the bladder, set a little bit of PSI after I put the snap ring in so that it seated. And now we're just about ready to get the new piston installed into the body, and we'll rearrange the vise right now. But I just wanted to let you know this shock shaft is completely annihilated. It was my fault. I did not grind off enough of the shot peen. So let me show you. I had to order another used shock, and right here where you can see the top of this thing, I had to grind it. So there's about, let's call it a 1/4 inch of shaft that sticks up past this nut, and I thought I ground enough, but I didn't. So when I put the shaft in a vise and I took the nut off, I tore those threads off. And then trying to salvage it, I completely destroyed the rest of the threads. So I had to order another shock. I got all the parts for it. A new aftermarket shock is like 1,100 bucks. So I got a used shock just to salvage it for this shaft for 80 bucks. So I was not about to pay 1,000 bucks when I could still do this on a budget. So we're going to put a little bit of oil on this piston, fill the shock body up with more oil, seat everything, put a little bit more air pressure in it, and we'll pretty much call it done after that. Then I can take the air out of the bladder and get it filled with nitrogen. Okay, I have about 111 psi of air in this thing. Just air for now. No leaks around here. No leaks around here. And I'm gonna cycle it. This is my first shock I've ever rebuilt, so you guys are going along for the ride with me. It is the next day and we are checking out the shock, making sure there's no leaks on the main seal head. I left the bump cap off for now just to be sure. Again, this is full with air in the bladder. We will be taking off the Schrader, taking the air out and putting nitrogen in it. But for now, for testing, there's nothing wrong with having air in it. So we will do a test at full bump. And it is rebounding smooth with no hiccups along the way and fully extended. So this thing is ready to get a spring on, get some nitrogen in and get onto the quad. Right here on the ground are the wheels that I was running on it. It's got the stock 4-bolt pattern in the front and the 5-lug in the rear. 5-lug, which is pretty unique to the LT250R. Hondas and Banshees ran a 4-lug rear. And on the last video, I left off that I had a big surprise. So obviously I've got damage there. That was from one of my cousins hitting it when we were riding a long time ago. But I went so far and so heavy into this build that these wheels just wouldn't cut it. So I'm going to introduce you to the 3-piece billet OMF beadlocks that were custom made just for this build. All right, as I mentioned, these are 3-piece. So we've got the billet beadlock assembly, which is separate to pinch the bead on the wheel. Then you've got this center piece right here, which is 1 unit. And then if you look and you see these little tiny bolts, these are actually bolting the ring, which is the 3rd part, and that contains the bolt pattern. So I got these for the factory front bolt pattern. And then in the rear, they're just not enough of the 5 lugs out there. So I had to get a centerpiece cut out for a Banshee bolt pattern, and I got Banshee hubs to go on it. Either way, it opens up more possibilities to a lot of rims, but these things are beefy. They're made by OMF in Riverside, California. They're all hand TIG welded, and they also put this little reinforced inner lip that's fully welded, so it doesn't pinch the bead, but it does give the lip of the wheel a lot more reinforcement. I did a few adjustments, maybe 3 or 4 little buzzes on that with the Dremel, and I put anti-seize on the axle. And once you get it right, it should just slide right on. So this one's still just a little too tight, so we'll take just a little bit more off. Go in a circular motion, the little barrel sander. And we're just trying to knock down the tips of this just a little bit so that it slides onto the LT axle. This is how you're gonna know when you got it just right. Keep in mind, these are brand new hubs, so the splines are super sharp. People claim that the original Yamaha hubs slide right on and off, which is believable because they'll be used a bit, but this is reproduction. I'll put the link in the description below, but either way, check this out. I put anti-seize on the splines. That's how you know you got it perfect. And there is 0 slop, no movement. All you're doing is knocking the ridges down just a bit. And for reference, this is gonna be the used hub. It's even more effortless. This has a little slop in it. And this one is gonna have no slop in it. So this is the better setup than the original. Obviously it's used, but yeah, so I'm gonna throw the wheels on and I'll give you a full visual. We've got the +2 long travel arms with the rear Yamaha hubs, which offset the wheel about 1 inch, and you can see the stance is perfect. Once these arms are settled with a rider on it, the rear will be thinner than the front by a margin, which is what you want on a setup like this. Anyways, we've got a 10.5 3+2 4x166. That is the factory bolt pattern. I wanted to stick with it. I love the way those factory hubs look. In the rear, we've got an 8x8 3+5 with a 4x110 bolt pattern. And I will be powder coating those hubs to match. The blue ring is the same powder coat color as the frame, which is RAL5005. And if you look, that hub is the factory color. I haven't messed with it one bit, so it's almost a dead-on paint match. You pair that with the engine True Blue from Krylon, and this thing is looking great. Let's get these old tire plastics on the quad just to get a visual of how it's gonna look and see what the end game is gonna be, because I'm getting excited on how close we are to the finish line on this build. Wow guys, I don't know about you, but I love it. This thing looks amazing. Sometimes on a big project like this, I like to take a break, throw all the cladding on, throw the body on, put the hood scoop in, and just see what it's gonna look like. But this thing is looking great. I really can't complain about the results so far. We're definitely going to need some plastics. These are really old, tired, and beat. But as you've seen, we just got the shock rebuilt. So once I put the shock in, it's going to lower those wheels down. So this is pretty much like full bump right here. That's why it looks a little odd. And that's full droop. So that's gonna be up a few inches. Those arms will basically be flat with the ground with the rider. And then this thing's gonna have a little downward angle and it'll be ready to rip. So hopefully, you know, next on part 5, I think we're gonna try to get the motor cranked. I do have a lot of suspension dialing to do. These Heims and frame mounts and tie rod ends, all that stuff needs to be dialed in. So maybe we'll jump on that on part 5 first, and then I'll look into getting some fuel lines ran to the carburetor and firing it up for the first time. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It makes a big difference. I will be following this project all the way through on this channel, so stay tuned. We'll get it fired up and we'll get it on the dirt.